Welcome to the XYZ podcast. We're three good friends, each from different generations, chatting about the most important pop culture moments from this year and how they impacted 2023. Whether you're great at keeping up with the times or you live under a rock, this podcast has something for you.
Are we gonna start the show?
Let's do it! Yay!
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us for this super special bonus episode where we wrapped up the year.
Oh my god.
So exciting.
Why don't we have each of us introduce ourselves and briefly say how our year went? Do you want to start, Tish?
Hi, I'm Tish. I am not an alcoholic, but I am other things. So 2023, good. No, it was okay. It was all right. I think that I'm better as a content creator and I've made some good friends. It's been a struggle with content towards the end of the year, but generally pretty good. And I feel like it's just been like every month there's something, there's always something happening. And I've enjoyed creating this with you guys.
Me too. This has been really fun. What about you guys?
Hello, my name is Gus. It's been a very up and down year for me. Lots of good, but also lots of bad. But I'm trying to see the good and the bad and just doing my best to just start fresh next year. I need to do that for sure.
And I'm Val. Same thing. We've been having a lot of fun making things, learning new things, but I've also been struggling and been in a rut personally with some of my mental health and my physical health issues. And I'm trying to be grateful for the good and hoping that I can maybe work on some of the bad next year and make it more bearable.
So Val has put together a yearbook. So if you want to sign your name and mine, yeah, have a good summer.
I was about to say hags. And there's going to be a link to it in the show notes if you want to check it out. Might be fun to look at while you're listening to the podcast or afterwards. It's just a fun way to commemorate some of the things that happened this year.
Do you know what we used to put in the Australian yearbooks? Bola, B-O-L-A. Best of luck always. Bola, you know, that was our thing that we would put in the yearbook.
Hags is so much less like personal. I hate that.
Yeah.
Well, hags is a better acronym than BOLA.
Well, Hags is a way better acronym, but BOLA actually has some bolas to it.
But see, that's usually probably in somebody's book who you don't know. It's like, oh, hi, Jason. How are you? Yeah, it was such a good year. Bye. Hags.
I'm looking at this like 10 years later, like, who was that?
Yeah.
So we're going to pick one thing from each month with a few honorable mentions and talk about each of those at the front end of the podcast. And then at the end, we have some categories, some yearbook. What are they called when they give the categories to people? They vote for people?
Awards?
But the high school ones.
Best of.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Accolades.
But they have a name and we're going to be talking about them and we each picked one. Let's get into it. Are you all ready?
Heck yeah.
Yep.
Let's do it.
So January was Lashgate with Michaela Nagira. Is that right?
I think so. I think it's Nagara. Yep.
All I can think of when I think of her is Kim Kardashian. She is an influencer. She works really hard. You have no idea how hard she works, okay? She's a TikToker mainly, and she was selling the telescopic L'Oreal mascara, and she put it on, and there was a cut. Well, what happened in the cut is allegedly She put on fake wispies, and every makeup expert in the biz said this. Anyway, she kind of like then left social media. Everybody was speculating. It made the product just sell like hotcakes because everybody wanted to see what it was like. When she came back on, she said, I know what you're all here for. She talked about something else, and everybody was like, oh my God, amazing, unbothered queen. Ugh. The point was that she is a shitty influencer. She was paid to use a product that she didn't actually use. It was false advertising, it was misrepresenting the product, and she was arrogant. And it was an interesting way to start the year off. What was your perception of the whole thing?
It just feels like to me a reflection of capitalism. You are rewarded by cutting corners and by doing things the maybe not most ethical way. She was still rewarded monetarily for doing that because it's almost accepted. Like, oh, well, you just have to get your bag. And I totally disagree with that. You don't have to do it by pretending to put lashes on that you didn't put on. Simple.
You know, there's already enough FTC violations that go on TikTok. Everything she has is a gift and it's not appropriately like said. And she loves Jaclyn Hill. Jaclyn Hill's her idol, and you can just see that influencing others just to not be honest, and that's terrible. It's a bad sign of things to come. So
That's one of the worst things about this year is how many people got rewarded monetarily for doing things that were horrible.
yeah.
Some honorable mentions for the month of January. We have Spare by Prince Harry. A lot of drama, a lot of tea. And we also have The Last of Us. The TV show came out on HBO and it was a big hit. Everyone loved it.
A lot of memes came out of it.
Just a lot of hype around it.
But and a lot of good discourse around The Last of Us. Like, there was a lot of good conversations happening.
And even more good conversations being brought about it now because we have found out that the creator of the game from The Last of Us is a Zionist. I feel like a trend that needs to happen this year is not idolizing anyone. Don't idolize anyone. I'm sorry. No one is good enough like that.
So let's talk about February. What we picked for this month is Pink Pantheress and Ice Spice hit Boys a Liar Part 2. It's just a cute, fun little song that sounds like two girls complaining to each other about their boyfriend who is going out and cheating and lying to them about things. And I feel like it really solidified Ice Spice as somebody who is going to make hits and who is going to stay in the music industry. She's not just somebody who made a one-hit wonder meme and is going to go away. And I think it really made Pink Pantheress somebody who people want to look at more.
Like that meme. What now? Two-hit wonder? Did you see that? Because she made a second song after Boys a Liar. What was it? I think it was Munch or something. And she was talking on a podcast or on a YouTube or something. And she was just like, what now? I'm a two-hit wonder. Like, I'm here. I'm here. No, I love this for her.
I'm surprised like anyone gets songs sort of listened to these days. It only goes for 60 seconds and you've got to hook the people in that 60 seconds and sometimes the 15.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting how, you know, that has really influenced music. And so, you know, kudos to her.
Mm-hmm.
Ice Spice and Pink Pantheress are both very smart about that. They both know how to hook somebody in really quickly, and they both know how to use trends to their advantage, but in a way that doesn't feel gimmicky or out of the norm for them. So I think they're both really smart, and they definitely solidified themselves as big names in the industry with this song.
And for honorable mentions for February, we have the Rihanna Super Bowl and her pregnancy announcement. That was a whole thing. I remember everyone going wild about that.
So in March, the big thing that has sort of like seeped into our brains, even though we're not sure how, is the scandal. The guy from Vanderpump Rules cheated on his girlfriend. That's all I know. It was big. Everybody was crying on the reunion show. Yeah, so it was huge.
He not only cheated on his girlfriend, he cheated on his girlfriend with a co-star from Vanderpump Rules. That exploded it even more than if it was just maybe somebody random that nobody knew.
See, I knew about Scandival because I was watching this one like survival show or whatever where they put like celebrities through like boot camp, basically, some boot camp thing. And I was watching it because of Jojo Siwa, I'm not gonna lie. But he, Mr. Sandoval of Scandival, was on the show and he's like, I feel like I need to be punished. And I'm just like, oh my god, find a dominatrix for that. Jesus.
Get a therapist or a job.
Or a dominatrix.
Are you still a JoJo Siwa fan? Or
No.
No!
See, I wasn't even much of a fan.
I sort of was.
While I was not a fan, I was sympathetic. But now that she is fully supporting James Charles and whatever, like, it's a no for me.
It's a no.
It's a
Mhm.
no.
Yep. So, honorable mentions for March. The Eras Tour began. ChatGPT got released. And the Lana Del Rey album got released.
And it was big in the Grammys too.
So for April, one big thing that happened was the blue checks were removed from Twitter. Now that was a big deal because it changed the trajectory of basically how Twitter was going to dissolve. People still use it, but it's a freaking cesspool. The blue checks were what people had if they were verified. Now you got verified by having a big following, showing who you were. Like there was a whole process to getting a blue check. Now you can buy it for $8. So people were pretending to be large corporations, people were pretending to be political people, and just making outrageous claims and just saying a bunch of stuff. One thing that happened was someone pretended to be an insulin company on Twitter and said that they were dropping the price of insulin, so the stock for insulin went down dramatically. This had real world implications, not just people saying a funny tee hee ha ha about a politician. Like, it was bad.
You're a Twittery person, Val. What do you think Elon did it?
His idea was, I want anybody to feel like they're important. In my opinion, I think that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to democratize it. He wanted to show this is not for the elites, this is for the people. And from then on, the app has only gotten harder and harder to use.
I mean, it's that whole thing like everybody gets a prize, but he just doesn't strike me as the everybody gets a prize type at all. Like it's very surprising, you know?
I could be wrong. That's just my understanding of it.
Honorable mentions for this month are Beef came out, the TV show, Barry season 4 came out, and Jury Duty came out, which I really like. I think it's pretty great.
In May, there was massive strikes for the Writers Guild and is it the screenwriters? SAG and WAG?
The Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild.
Basically looking at rights for especially streaming and especially with the cost of living going up and looking at how they can, you know, make a living as being in the entertainment industry. And there was another significant strike probably about 10 years ago that was similar, and it needs to happen every now and again. It was good to see union power, and they actually had quite a lot of support from big actors and things like that who came and picketed with them. There were a couple of people who had a bit of a downfall because they were scabs, and we are not sorry about that.
One of the big things about the writer strike and the actor strike that happened after that, they were really worried about AI and the usage of AI. In the writer's room, they wanted AI to be used to help write scripts And then in the actors' world, they wanted to be able to use their likenesses with AI. People are not fully sure if the deal that was made addresses those concerns. So I think that that's going to be a topic that keeps coming up.
Okay, so we have a lot of honorable mentions for May. One that just makes my heart sing is Kylie Minogue's Padam Padam. It's a jam. I love it. And we also have Queen Charlotte that came out. And a star, in my opinion, was the cockroach at the Met Gala.
King Charles' coronation unfortunately also happened, and it got memed because everybody hated him.
Boo. Coming from a Commonwealth nation over here. Boo.
I was gonna ask, what's Australian opinion on the monarchy? Are there royalists?
Yeah, there are, and I mean they're usually the conservatives, of course, but yeah, no, I'm not a fan, and most people don't really like him, but we have some tabloid magazines that just whoever the royalty is the best thing in the whole world, and they're on every single cover, and it's like you didn't like him yesterday, and now he's on your cover, so
Yeah, what happened?
fuck them.
Oh, and last honorable mention, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out, and people really, really loved that game.
So for June, we have the meme of the Grimace Shake. I saw it for the first time because someone from my high school made a recreation of the meme on their Instagram story, and I was like, what is this? I have to know more. McDonald's released a shake. It was a blueberry shake, but it was purple, and it just looked very fake and not good. So people made the joke that if you took a sip of the Grimace Shake, you would die. It would kill you. The Grimace Shake would kill you.
People got really creative on TikTok showing how it would kill you. It would make you froth at the mouth with this disgusting stuff. Grimace would appear.
He would punch you in the face or something. Like,
Courtney Cox even did a version where her dog took a sip and became a giant dog that was like about to eat her. So people had a lot of fun. It ended up being almost a really cinematic trend, albeit kind of gross.
The shake was gross. Also, we're boycotting McDonald's right now. So even if they bring the Grimace Shake back, we do not go back.
Oh, was it a limited time thing? The Grimace
Yeah.
Shake? Okay.
Yeah.
Honorable mentions for this month include Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Janelle Monáe came out with their album The Age of Pleasure. The Bear Season 2 came out. And Elliot Page had his memoir called Page Boy. So, July, the big thing that happened was Barbenheimer. It was a double feature, I think on a weekend, of both Barbie and Oppenheimer. This has happened a lot of times throughout cinematic history where two very opposing things with a lot of clout and excitement behind them have happened on the same weekend. But for some reason, people on the internet were acting like this is the first time that this has ever happened and this is a truly great moment in history. I will say the state of cinema and of the movie theaters has not been great, especially because of the pandemic. And for the past few years, there have not been a lot of people who have been excited to go to the movies. And Barbenheimer was a moment where there were a lot of people that were excited to go to the movies who really genuinely wanted to see these two films or one of these two films. And so even if people look back and think, oh, that was a little ridiculous, it's going to have its impact on culture.
It did seem like you said, that more people were talking about going to the cinema, and it was, it was a moment in time, for sure.
I mean, there were so many memes. There were so many people dressing up and making their TikToks about like, oh, what am I wearing to the Barbie movie? Or like making a half and half outfit, half Barbie, half Oppenheimer. Like, there was just so much stuff that came out of that I feel like it had to be mentioned.
Honorable mentions for this month It was pretty wild when everybody found out that Ethan Slater and Ariana Grande were dating. That was a big deal, unfortunately. The Women's World Cup took over our feeds and our minds
In our hearts.
and our hearts. And Talk to Me came out. It's a feature film debut from YouTubers, and it's regarded as one of the best horror films that came out this year. So go check that out. Let's talk about the month of August. The biggest thing this month was what's been dubbed as the Montgomery Riverfront Brawl. Tish, why don't you tell us what you remember about it?
There was this folding chair, right?
Okay.
Just a little folding chair, having a good day.
There was a folding chair and a couple of boats, and there was some drunk white dudes who maybe had a bit too much time in the sun. They started a fight with a black security guard on the dock.
Yes.
He was taking care of the docks, basically, and they parked the boat somewhere that they weren't supposed to, and they were yelling at him, and then they started throwing swings. And, he was trying to defend himself, but it was 4-on-1. He was not going to be able to take care of himself.
But the Black community arose. Everyone came to his aid. A folding chair was involved. People were swimming to the scene. It was a moment in time.
People became journalists, and we got so many angles of what happened, and lots of people talking on the background like, look at him go, look at him go. Oh, yeah. It was one of the few moments since Twitter became Elon land that Twitter actually felt like Twitter again. And it really felt like a communal place where we could all share information and laugh at the same thing at the same time.
So, honorable mentions for August, we have Missy joining Inter Miami. We have Tory Lanez being sentenced to jail for shooting Meg Thee Stallion. And we also have Baldur's Gate 3, a video game that came out and won Video Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
So, September was a big month because Danny Masterson was sentenced, and he got the book thrown at him in terms of what you can sentence somebody for rape in the state of California. And I think this was a big blow both to him, to his image, to Scientology, and it also ended up impacting Ashton and Mila Kutcher, because they wrote letters in support of him and his character, and everybody dragged their asses.
And no one thought that they would read the letters. Oh, I didn't think anyone would see this. He's such a good father and a good friend.
That just shows what happens when people think no one's watching. So, honorable mentions for September, we have Olivia Rodrigo's album Guts that came out. That was a hit. Someone got arrested for Tupac's murder.
Finally.
It took 20 years. Jesus. Also, the movie Killers of the Flower Moon was released.
The month of October was basically taken over by Britney's memoir. Jada Pinkett Smith also came out with a memoir that got a lot of attention, but at the end of the day, Britney's memoir was the big thing this month that we were all talking about. Both because we all wanted to hear Britney's story after so long of censorship, and because Michelle Williams' reading of the book is actually really funny and hilarious. She ended up having to do an impression of Britney Spears, doing an impression of Justin Timberlake, trying to do a black scent and using AAVE.
Another thing about the Britney memoir that really shook up the culture is that NSYNC was rearing up for a reunion. They were on Hot Ones, they did a song in Trolls, and it just everyone was expecting an NSYNC reunion. But then Britney released her memoir, and now everyone is mad at Justin Timberlake. So any chance they had of that is dead.
Honorable mentions, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 came out. Alan Wake 2 is a long-awaited follow-up to Alan Wake, and it did really well and was a great game. And Simone Biles became the most decorated gymnast in history.
So SZA got 9 Grammy nominations for her album Snooze. There were so many bangers on there. It really shook up the culture. All the girlies were talking about it. That song, I Just Killed My Ex, hit too hard for me. And that just really shook up the culture. I think she deserved it, honestly.
I think there would have been so many of the girlies screaming that on a dance floor.
And for some honorable mentions, The Holdovers with Paul Giamatti came out. We also have The Curse, which is a show that Val thought was just so uncomfortably beautiful that I think I need to watch it. And also Scott Pilgrim Takes Off came out, which the girlies seem to love.
So we'll have a longer episode for December, just breaking it down more. But we had, everybody's favorite comedian, TikTok dude with the jaw. Some people say he looks like handsome Squidward.
He so does! Oh, that's so real.
Anyway, Matt Rife completely alienated his entire fan base by just the first joke in his Netflix special. He basically shit all over women and went alpha male, and a lot of people have sort of overlooked this part of it. He said, if you have a problem with my Netflix special, press this link, and it took you to like a disabled person's headwear place. So he's basically saying, if you don't like my comedy, you're disabled. Then he went on Jordan Peterson's fucking podcast. They obviously didn't know who each other were. They were like, oh, do people hate you? People also hate me. So he sucks. Val, you listened to the Tanner. He went on a podcast.
I didn't see when he went on the podcast. I couldn't find that. But I did listen to when Tana's co host on that podcast, Brooke, talked about how Matt was actually her ex that she's talked about on the show a lot, and how Matt has made fun of her genitals on a podcast before, and how he stood her up, and he's just not a good person overall. So bad jokes, no comedy, and bad person. So let's leave him in 2023.
So for honorable mentions for December, we have 2 movies. We have Godzilla and The Color Purple. Both made their respective splashes in the zeitgeist for different reasons.
Okay, so next we are going to talk about I remembered the word superlatives for this year's 2023 yearbook. So let us know if you agree or disagree with any of our choices, and if you have one of your own, you can let us know on Instagram. First category is the biggest beef or drama that overtook our minds and our timelines in 2023. Tish, what is your pick?
So this is something that happened recently, and it's a TikTok beef. Lauren the mortician and this terrible lawyer, Jeanette, aka Janet Braun, Don't call her Janet. She might sue you. And I don't say that lightly because she is suing people for calling her Janet. She says it's defamation. So there's a group of 4 women who she's suing, including OG YouTubers Jessie Smiles and Lily Marston, and their Do We Know Them podcast, as well as 2 other TikTok creators, Caffeinated Kitty and Becca Day. And basically, it is ridiculous. It's censorship. It's egregious. And this lawyer is getting like laughed all over the internet.
Sorry, if I could get money for defamation every time someone was mean to me, I would be rolling in dough.
Same.
Let's be real here. Okay, Gus, your pick for our biggest beef.
So my pick for biggest beef is the orcas beef with the yachts. I think that the Yorkas, I think that the orcas are anti-capitalist, anti-hoarding of wealth to the point that you would have a yacht.
Mhm.
So they're literally just sticking their heads in the propellers and stopping them and sinking them. And I'm like, slay! I am on the side of the orcas. Can you tell what was the name of the orca? She led the charge of the Orca Wars.
Mm.
White Gladys! Her name was Gladys.
Gladys.
The orca Gladys led the charge. It is a woman-led movement to end billionaires from the sea. Iconic.
And then one of the ones that I think we're all going to remember is the Swifties versus Ticketmaster. Now, people were having a really hard time buying their Taylor Swift tickets. There has been a lot of talk about Ticketmaster and how they've been inflating prices and how they've made it hard for people to buy tickets to the shows that they want to go to. So, flop on Ticketmaster's part.
Yep.
Speaking of flops, our next category is the biggest downfall / flop of the year. Now, there were many. This is going to be a difficult one. Gus, what's your pick?
So the biggest flop of the year for me was Colleen Ballinger's whole debacle, her whole response to what was going on, and her just flippant nonchalantness about what she did. A lot of people are seeing her for what she is now, and while I'm sure there are still supporters, a lot of people have seen through it because of the information that has gotten out there through the victims.
I hope you don't go on tour again and hurt any more people. So my choice for the biggest downfall of the year was Lizzo. In the middle of the year, right after a international worldwide tour, and right after she released a song for Barbie that was really well liked, it came out that there were allegations of workplace harassment and abuse, not just from one person, but from several dancers on her team. And a lot of people came out and corroborated these stories. Now, there have been a lot of downfalls this year, but a lot of people have been able to bounce back. Lizzo has not, and I don't think she ever will, in my opinion.
Actually, I think Lizzo is mine as well. Yeah, like as a woman in a bigger body and just being like girl power and stuff like that. But that's interesting that you say that she's not bouncing back. Do you think it is the just white supremacy on top of that again? Like why can Colleen come back onto the internet?
So many people get comeback careers after doing super terrible things.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of that, but I think it's also that she cultivated an audience of people who really cared about issues that ended up coming up in the lawsuit against her. So I think she shot herself in the foot by cultivating an audience of people that really cared about that stuff if she wasn't actually going to care about it behind the scenes. So I think it's a bit of multiple things. Honorable mentions for biggest downfall / flop. These are all YouTuber-y people, so if you don't know about them, that's okay. There's plenty of videos talking about it on the tube. James Somerton, Nick is Not Green, and I think the biggest of all of them was Illuminati. Our next superlative is unproblematic fave. There are not many things left in our world that are unproblematic, so we actually had a hard time with this one. So why don't we start with you, Gus?
So, for my unproblematic fave, I chose a group of people. I chose the journalists of Palestine. They are working their asses off trying to get this information out there while also trying to survive. Special shout out to Bison. She's gotten a lot of information out there for me. Motaz as well. They shouldn't have to be doing this. No one should have to do what they're doing, but they are still putting in the good work, getting the word out there when they should even just be focused on surviving. It's really sad, but they deserve a special shout out at the end of the year roundup because goddamn, the situation is terrible.
The Time Person of the Year definitely shouldn't be Taylor Swift, but it should be.
Cause wasn't it the people of Ukraine when the Ukraine stuff went down?
Yes, and the president. Tish, who's your pick?
So my unproblematic fave is Francesca Ramsey, and I didn't realize that she's an OG YouTuber. I didn't realize that. And worlds have collided as I have seen that she spoke out very early about Shane Dawson. She was telling everybody. She was telling everybody, and she got a lot of hate for it. But she was also really big this year in the writer's strike. She was really vocal about that, as well as, calling out people for white women's tears. Yeah, so I like her a lot.
Yep, she's awesome. And my pick is Flyana Boss. You might have seen them running around while singing their song this year. They got really big and really viral, and they were really smart about capitalizing on that moment while also not just copy and pasting the same thing over and over again. Yeah, I just like the two of them. And an honorable mention, an unproblematic fave, Godzilla. We all love Godzilla. Lesbian supremacy.
Slay.
Next category. What do we think is going to be the thing, the moment, the event that is going to be remembered in 100 years from now? Do you want to start, Gus?
The biggest moment for me was the fact that we got a mugshot of Donald Trump, and he just looked like an angry Cheeto duck, and it was so funny. And it just feels like a moment everyone came together. And we were just like, look at this! Ha ha ha! Fuck this man!
The far right people wearing a shirt with the mugshot that said "Never Surrender." The most likely to be remembered in 2023 is capitalism on steroids. The Titanic submarine that unfortunately did kill some people. Going down into the depths of the ocean to look at the Titanic in a unsinkable submarine, and yeah, it was deja vu in the worst way.
Can't forget that it was controlled by a Game Boy controller.
Oh yeah, and apparently it was like the barest minimum of technology in the actual submarine, in the controlling of it. It was just a status, like to get a seat on this thing.
It was $250,000 per seat just to get in the submarine. And my pick that I think is going to be remembered are the Eras Tour and the Renaissance Tour by Taylor Swift and by Beyonce. I think both of them kind of miffed it at the end because they showed the Eras film and the Renaissance film in Israel, and a lot of the fans on both sides were really upset about that. Beyonce has spoken out in support of Palestine before, so her fan base was obviously kind of surprised that she decided to go through with this. And Taylor Swift's fans, a lot of them know about the struggle because in 2019, a fan account posted, "Sorry, I haven't been posting on this account. I went to jail because I refused to serve in the IDF." And because of that, a lot of Swifties know about the struggle in Palestine. So a lot of them were really upset at her too. But you can't deny the impact that both of these tours had. The spectacle that they were, I think it's going to be remembered for a long time. And I think that it's going to set the standard for what we expect from live shows in the future.
And also the incident that happened at the Taylor Swift concert where a fan passed away, and I think that will affect it as far as safety and possibly, hopefully, capitalism not being so important.
For this next superlative, what do we think that's a trend that needs to be left behind in 2023 that we are sick and tired of? Let's start with you, Gus.
So for me, I think just the whole thing with AI replacing people, with the AI art, with all of the stuff going on in the writers and the actors guilds, I don't get it. I don't get why that is better than a human working on it. Oh wait, I know why capitalistically it is, because you don't have to pay a robot.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, to these big corporations, to people that just want to make a buck, it's great because you don't have to be an artist to make art anymore. You can just piggyback off of all the artists that have come before you and make something. I just think that needs to be left behind. It probably won't be, unfortunately. It's probably just going to get worse.
Tish, what's your pick?
I'm going to say TikTok battles. So there is a function on TikTok where people can battle each other, and people buy tokens from TikTok and they can gift their favorite. There's actually like TikTok begging. People are getting angry if they're not donating to them. And then you've got creators who are donating to themselves. TikTok's not going to stop it though, because they are making so much money from it. But it's children. I think it's children who are taking their parents' money, and it's just the lowest form of entertainment. There's no creation to it. You know, the same with AI art. There's like, hey, oh, thank you. Hey, thank you. Hey, thank you. Oh, thanks for that gift. What the fuck? That's not entertaining.
And mine, I think that we need to stop giving bigots anything. And I mean, don't engage with them. Don't like go to their tweet and say, hey, you're a, just ignore them. And I think we need to stop platforming people who have these horrible, shitty views. One of the most viewed people in America is Greg Gutfield. And if you heard any of the things that that man said for maybe 10 minutes, it will alter your brain chemistry in a negative way. And I think we need to stop platforming these people and put our money into the people who actually try to better their communities. And I think specifically white women, we need to hold ourselves accountable. I say that even though I don't consider myself a woman, but because I grew up conditioned as a woman, so I put myself in there.
You know, that's why Trump won. Don't talk, listen, white women. That's what you need to do. Listen.
An honorable mention for this category is influencers influencing selectively. If you decide that you want to talk to people about makeup and about issues in certain things, and you decide that you want to be somebody who talks about things, don't be surprised when somebody comes and says, hey, why are you not speaking about genocide?
Brittany Broski.
Our last one for this, what was our personal favorite piece of media that we consumed, whether it be a movie, a book, a TV show, etc.? What's yours?
So my favorite, the one that really altered my brain chemistry, if you will, was Super Mario Wonder. That game is just so beautiful. It is so fun. It's quite hard, but if you need to play as a character that doesn't take any damage, you can. The only thing I don't like about it is that fuck ass flower. He needs to shut up. But it's a kid's game, so I get it. I know why he's there. For those who don't know, the fuck ass flower tries to give you support through the whole thing. He's like, Yahoo, you're doing great. And I'm like, oh my god, shut up. I'm literally struggling so hard right now. I'm about to cry. Like, please don't. But great game. Don't get me wrong. Love it. It's amazing.
Tish, what's your pick?
I'm going to say that it's probably Dragula, which is a monster drag competition, if you haven't heard of it. And we talked about it in our first episode. It's a really good year and a lot of variety in body, in nationality, and in gender presentation as well. So it's been a good year. I don't think it's finished yet, but so far I'm enjoying it.
My personal pick for this year is The Devil's Plan. It came out on Netflix and it's a reality TV show. It's from Korea. And when I first started watching it, I was like, what is happening? I don't understand any of these games. They are too hard. I only have one functioning brain cell. But you kind of get it as they're playing it. You kind of will understand it as they're going along. All of the people that they picked are really wholesome and they have really good interactions with each other. I think on American reality TV, they love to put people that are just so horrible and obnoxious and they just keep them on for as long as possible. And this does not do that. It just puts a lot of people who seem cool and just put them all in a room and just test their smarts. I've watched so many of these competition reality shows that I kind of know all the tricks, and they kept me surprised, gooped, and gagged throughout the episodes. So much so that I do not want to watch the last episode because I don't want to see who wins. I don't want to end it because I loved it so much. So I'm probably going to do that because I think, let's end the year off with something that I really enjoyed.
I did that with the Office finale. It took me a year or two to watch the last Office.
Well, I think that's it. Thank you so much for joining us for this bonus episode. This was really fun. We are wishing you lots of fun media and good things for 2024 and a more equitable and safer year for everybody, free from colonization and imperialism.
Yes. Check out our Instagram, and we have our personal Instagrams as well, which we might put somewhere just to follow us as well. And yeah.
Oh, and if you haven't already, please check out the yearbook that Val put in the description. If you want to see more things that happened throughout the months, we have some more things in there. Yeah, thank you all so much for joining us. Be safe in this new year, and we'll see you next year.
Yeah, see you in 2024.
Hags! Hags!
Hags!
Thank you so much for listening to the XYZ podcast. We'd appreciate it if you left us a rating and review. We'll see you in the next episode for more laughs and chats about the month's moments.